It's the final mock draft Monday of the Locked On Steelers podcast, which means it's draft week. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Chris Carter, your host. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on this video. If you're enjoying it, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to get all of our daily episodes Monday through Friday, as well as our breaking news updates and sometimes our bonus episodes like we had this past weekend. We thank you for supporting the Locked On Steelers podcast and making us your first listen every day. If you want to help us out more, go on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review with a positive comment, and you'll get a special shout out at the end of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season long with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Go to BetOnline where the game starts. Well, happy Monday, everyone, and happy draft week. We've made it, which means we only got about 3.5 more days of having to worry about mock drafts and everything. But so trust me, I'm looking forward to the end of this process too, just so we can finally know who the Steelers get and we can take a step forward. It's like this every year, but we have a lot to talk about. There's, also if you missed it, I posted it on both audio and with on the Spotify, Apple, like and everything through our audio, but also on YouTube. Our bonus episode, we've had so many call-in questions over the past few days. I haven't been doing this for a week, and I already have so many. So I thank you for everyone who's called into the show, who's left kind words, and also left very thoughtful questions. And we try to get to them throughout the show. If we don't get to you, we apologize because there's a lot of you, and I only have so much time to do this show every day. So that's why I try to do a bonus episode to address you guys. We'll try to find ways to do that throughout the year to try and get as many of those questions on the show. But today I wanted to lead off about Najee Harris, not just because it's not really a super draft topical thing, because I have talked to the draft into the ground, and anyone who's listened to the show or watched this show knows that I've gone over so many prospects. I've gone over this name and that name and everything else. But there was an interesting tidbit that we got of Najee Harris last Friday, and that was on the Pro Football Talk live show with Mike Florio, and he was talking to Florio, and for a while they were goofing off about Najee Harris's wrestling appearance, which was kind of cool. Him and Pat Fryermuth we're at I think they were at AEW when they were in Pittsburgh, and then also they were at they were at Penguins games together. They were at Pirates games. So Najee Harris has been kind of becoming the ambassador for the Steelers a bit there, and he's actually he's like the legitimate ambassador going to Mexico City for this event. That's for Steelers fans in Mexico City. So he's becoming this guy that's becoming a face for the Steelers, and I thought this was what was coming down the line. This is a big reason why I've been a big Najee Harris proponent since way back when he was playing at Alabama, and people were telling you the Steelers don't draft running back. They're not going to draft that running back in the first round. And I was like, they probably are. But he had this interesting tidbit with Mike Florio saying, quote, I want to become a better leader. I think I have to really step up into that area in my career right now, and it's become a more vocal leader now that Ben's gone. And so we need somebody on the offensive side to be that. Now, to be clear, the Steelers have leaders on their team. Cam Hayward is a leader. I think TJ Watt is becoming a leader. TJ Watt's a great player, but he hasn't been the guy that I've seen be the vocal guy at certain times, to be the person that like sets the bar. This is the line that we don't cross. This is what we do. I think he's becoming that, but I also think that's just part of who TJ is. Not everybody is a vocal leader. Some people are just a lead by example guy. For example, Troy Polamalu, not a vocal leader. He just led by example, and he let James Ferrier and other guys do that for the defense back then. But I think Minkah Fitzpatrick is becoming another guy like that. So there's guys like that on defense, but he's right. Without Ben Roethlisberger, there is no guy like that. But that's also why I think Ben Roethlisberger, and I've talked about this all last season as I was covering practices and talking about, the Steelers and everything and how they were looking last season. Ben Roethlisberger was taking his time to talk to Najee Harris about stories, leadership, just culture with the team, what he thought about things, picking Najee's brain. I think Ben Roethlisberger saw the leadership potential in Najee Harris, and he wanted him to understand that, like, hey, this can really be yours. This can really be you as a leader, and that's why Najee Harris. I think that's why Najee Harris is being looked at that way. And crazy enough, we had a question from Daniel from Savannah, Georgia, more along these lines over the weekend.
Hey, what's going on, Chris at Locked On Podcast? It's Daniel from Savannah, Georgia. Hey, man, my question for you is, who do you think is going to be the new offensive leader coming into the new season? I think it's going to be Najee Harris. They're ready letting him pick the fourth round pick for this draft. They're sending him to Mexico to represent for that upcoming game over Mexico. And apparently they're keeping him informed about all the picks they're making in free agency as well as the draft. So, I mean, what do you think? Who do you think the offensive leader is going to be in offense? Like I said, I think it's going to be Najee. All right, let me know. Bye.
And thank you, Dan, for your call. But I do think Mitch Trubisky will be involved in leadership because the quarterback has to be. But I do think they're ready to groom Najee Harris to be a leader for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was a big reason why they drafted him. And this is what I heard when I was asking people, when I was asking to try to get a sense of who Najee Harris was when, during that draft process. And everything I heard was this was a guy you wanted in your locker room. This was a guy who set a tone, who was a leader, who could be that guy that everyone rallies behind and everyone wants to rally behind. That's why they went and got him. In addition to him being an amazing running back in college, and in addition to him, having the most forced missed tackles in the NFL last year, according to Pro Football Focus. This is a guy who is going to set a tone for your team. And while you're looking for that next leader at the quarterback position, you can use it at the running back position as you become a stronger running team, or at least a more balanced offense, while your defense kind of leads the way. And this is something that I've been saying for quite some time is what the Steelers need to do to prepare for the post Ben Roethlisberger era, because you're not coming out here and thinking that it's going to be like 2016 Steelers with Mitch Trubisky. He's not going to just be slinging the ball every play and just throwing it up to an Antonio Brown-like receiver. They're going to need a more balanced look, and you're going to need a running back to do that. Remember, Ben Roethlisberger, when he came to the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the leaders, although a lot older and kind of out of his prime, was Jerome Bettis, and he was a tone setter for the Pittsburgh Steelers for so long. Even outside of just his play, his leadership component, his presence, that meant so much to the team. That's something that the Steelers absolutely see in Najee becoming, and they want that to happen, which is why he is being focused on so much for this team. It's why they made him a first-round pick. So, yes, I do see that component coming, Daniel, but it's also something that he's talking about it now. Best believe he's been thinking about this. We even asked him about this at times last year because Najee would talk so much to the media. Like, that was one thing. A lot of guys, they'll be like short-winded, or they won't know what to say, or they'll just keep their answers simple. Najee will just let you know how he's feeling. And I think the players appreciate that because he's like that in real life too. Like, not just with the media, he's like that in person. He's gonna tell you how I feel about something. And I think he's going to be a guy that people get behind, and I think it's going to be a big part of what helps the Steelers kind of cultivate this new version of their culture with this new group of guys. Again, without the super quarterback that they drafted high up in the first round. Now, again, they may draft one of those guys this year. I haven't dismissed the idea that's going to happen. I think it's more likely that it doesn't work out in their favor, that a quarterback falls into a range that they're comfortable either trading up for or picking naturally at 20. Just because what I've heard from other teams looking at quarterbacks this year. But I really think that there's the way that they're looking at things here, Najee gets a chance to kind of be that leader whenever they are ready to add that quarterback for the long term. That guy's going to come in, and Najee's going to be a guy that can help groom that player, help ease the offense for him, and kind of say, like, hey, we already have a good system here. All you got to do, young rookie, is get in here, learn the system. Let's get to work. So, yes, Najee Harris, a leadership component, I think is going to be a big factor for the Steelers moving forward. And I'm also intrigued to see how other guys step up as leaders. Pat Freiermuth, does he develop into a leader for the team? A tight end position, odd position to be a leader from, but could it happen? Maybe, and we'll see how that develops. But there's other things that have been happening in the NFL that I think are interesting. We'll get to talking about the Deebo Samuel situation because some Steelers fans think it's a really good idea to get him. You'll get my thoughts on that in a second. Of course, we'll also talk more about the draft, because there's one prospect we talked about very early in the draft that we kind of haven't talked about for several weeks now. And I want to talk about that guy because he's the top rated guy at his position. And you'll know who I'm talking about in just a minute here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Athletic Greens. And Athletic Greens is one of my favorite things to have every single day. Our partner has a product that I literally use every day, and it's called AG1. So Athletic Greens, their AG1 product is an easy way to kind of skip. If you don't like preparing for meals, if you feel like you're not getting the proper nutrients every day, AG1 is something that's going to help you get better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system. And I'm an asthmatic. It helps me breathe as well. It's something that's very healthy for you, very simple to make, and very easy on you. I've been using AG1 for about a month and a half now, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy or it's heavy to gulp down. It's just a mild tropical taste, and I really look forward to it every morning when I wake up. I make it, I drink it before breakfast, and I'm good to go. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. Also, right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. So just one scoop of this cup and a cup of water every day with this, and that's all you need. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements and to look out for your health. It costs less than $3 a day, and it contains less than a gram of sugar and supports your better sleep quality. Trust me, it does. I need to get my sleep, and it's really helped me get better sleeps at night. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We're keeping it rolling here, and I want to take some of your questions in the second one. The first one was more so, it was kind of convenient that Daniel asked his question when he did, and we got that clip of Najee Harris, because I did think that was actually important to talk about on this show. But, of course, you guys know Deebo Samuel looking to get traded from the San Francisco 49ers. And if you were on Steelers Twitter, boy, were they just making up a storm. Go get Deebo Samuel. Why not get Daniel Samuel? He's a running back and a wide receiver. You go get him, right? Okay. So let's point something out here. Deebo Samuel's drop rate is significantly higher than Diontae Johnson's. Yes, he was a big part of what the Niners did this past year, but he doesn't want to be that type of player anymore. The indications from Adam Schefter and other people in the know seem to be that he doesn't want to be the running back / wide receiver. He just wants to be a wide receiver. But if you think that Diontae Johnson's drops were a problem, Deebo Samuel's have been another problem. And it leads to the question that everyone's asking. Should the Steelers take a look? This was Kevin Peterson from New Jersey asking that very question.
Hey guys, it's Kevin from Fairlawn. Grew up in Pittsburgh, watched Mark Malone as my first quarterback for the Steelers. So I'm that old. I wanted to know what you guys thought about Deebo Samuel. We've been listed as a potential landing spot for him, and I thought he would be a great wide receiver 1 plus a change of pace back for Najee Harris. Love the pod. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. Bye.
And I appreciate you, Kevin, for reaching out and giving us the heads up and enjoying the podcast. But I'll let you know right now, Deebo Samuel wouldn't work in Pittsburgh. One, he doesn't want to be that extra running back to help Najee Harris because he realized that's putting a lot of punishment on his body. He wants to get less touches in that way. He wants to find, because he knows that's going to shorten his career and lessen his ability to make money in the NFL. Another thing is, you're going to be in a very similar situation. You're going to have to give up draft capital to get him, and then you're going to have to pay him big money. Two things the Steelers don't need to do right now. Their whole point right now is rebuild the roster, find ways to get stronger in certain positions, find long-term solutions. And I know you might be saying, well, Deebo Samuel is a long-term solution, but so would Diontae Johnson be. Again, Diontae Johnson has more sure hands than Deebo Samuel's. Go look up the drop rates. They are there. But I look at how this team has worked over the past several years. And there would be a place for Deebo Samuel if he wanted to be that extra player. But again, the Steelers don't need that right now. They need young wide receivers that they'll have under rookie contracts, not have to pay a lot of money, so that they can be able to keep a Diontae Johnson or go sign up a guy later who is better at catching the ball and is more of a pure receiver. Um, and I really think Deebo Samuel kind of works against that ideal. Because when you think about it, again, I talked about this last week. All the 2019 receivers, when people were complaining about how Diontae Johnson wants paid, all of them do. It's DK Metcalf, it's AJ Brown, it's Deebo Samuel, it's Terry McLaurin, it's Diontae Johnson. All of those guys that were drafted in that year, this is their contract time, and they're like, I want to get paid. I want to get paid. And the NFL's kind of looking at the wide receiver position and being like, there's a lot of really talented wide receivers coming out every single year. Why should I pay you big money right now unless you're like Jamar Chase or Antonio Brown or, Justin Jefferson or someone along those lines? And DK Metcalf, impressive guy, but they're like, you know what? We don't got Russell Wilson no more. Nah, I'm not so sure about that. This is why I don't think they should be trading for a Deebo Samuel right now. If he gets cut and someday he comes to the Steelers, great. I think that would be fine. But not a trade, not for something that you gotta really, hash out and work on, and give up draft capital for and pay extra money for. I just don't think that that's the move right now. So when the Steelers are looking at wide receivers in this NFL draft class, I'm still telling you they're going to draft 2 this year because they went and got Miles Boykin. Yay. But they've got Chase Claypool, they've got Diontae Johnson. They're going to draft 2 wide receivers, and one of them's going to be either on day 1 or on day 2, and then the other's going to be on day 3, and then they're going to bring Boykin, Chase Claypool, Diontae Johnson, Cody White, Anthony Miller, Gunnar Olszewski, and then the 2 rookies. They're going to bring all those guys to camp and say, all right, who's our top 6? And I say top 6 because they're probably going to keep 6 because they've been liking to keep 6 ever since the 2016 AFC Championship fiasco when it was really Antonio Brown and Colby Hamilton and Darius Hayward-Bay out there. So that's that. But let's get back to the NFL draft question for a real sec. Now, if you remember way back when at the start of this process, there was one position that everyone was talking about. It wasn't defensive line. It wasn't cornerback. It wasn't quarterback. It was the center position. And there was one guy all season long who everyone talked about was the best center in the class. And it was like, oh, it makes so much sense. He's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. It's Tyler Linderbaum. Well, we had a question from Michael in San Diego about him. Here's Michael.
Hey, Chris, this is Michael from San Diego. My question is, if the Steelers are picking at 20 and nothing kind of comes down to them, do you think Tyler Linderbaum is still a good option for them? Let me know what you think. Hopefully I can make it on the show. I love this show. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Michael. We appreciate your question. Now, I will say this. Tyler Linderbaum, I think, has the overall demeanor you want, but there are certain parts of his game that don't add up to what I think the Steelers need at the 20th overall pick right now. I also think with them getting James Daniels and Mason Cole, that's them kind of saying, like, you know what, we're kind of okay on the interior offensive line unless everything works out for us. If Tyler Linderbaum somehow falls to the second round, he won't. That would be when you take him. But let me show you something. This is the relative athletic score I'm putting here on the YouTube right now. If you're listening, I'll try to explain as it goes along. So as you heard me talk about before, RAS, or relative athletic score, is done by this Kenneth Platt guy. He's at MathBomb on Twitter. But basically, he computes players by their positions and their combine and pro day measurements to measure them and compare them to guys that were in their their draft classes, and also all time versus other players that are of the similar position. And I put these 2 up against each other, Tyler Linderbaum and Zion Johnson, because Zion Johnson has become, to a lot of people, the number 1 interior offensive line prospect of this class. Now, he was a guard for most of his time at Boston College. I know some people are saying, like, oh, Kendrick Green all over again. Why would you do that? But Zion Johnson's tape's a little bit different. He controls the point of attack much more. Kendrick Green made himself known because he was mobile, he was moving around, and he was able to get after guys. And he was able to be physical, and people love that about him. But Zion Johnson's physical at the point of attack without having to move around. And these comparisons in the RAS scores show a difference between Zion Johnson. Now, The biggest thing about Tyler Linderbaum is that he has short arms, and short arms don't always help with establishing yourself at the point of attack, especially at the center position. Also, he's not as strong at the point of attack. You can see he can sometimes get bullied in the hole, and that's not a good thing, especially in the division. The Steelers used to get bullied by Ravens defensive tackles for years when that was a problem. David DeCastro had to help Marquise Pouncey out with that. But you look at these comparisons. Now, the height, Zion Johnson is only a little bit taller than Tyler Linderbaum, and that's a little annoying. But the arm length is significant, is at least 3 inches longer, and that does help. And if you look at the bench press, Zion Johnson considerably stronger, and you see that he had 32 reps on the bench press compared to 24 for Linderbaum. That's really low for centers, and the 32 is up there among the best of the centers class when you look at Zion Johnson. So he did better there. He had a better weight for the position. The biggest thing Linderbaum has on him is he's more mobile. He has a better 40 time, and he had I believe he had a better 3-cone time. So like he can run, he can change direction, he can do those things really well. But when it comes to explosiveness, Zion Johnson has them. When it comes to overall strength, Zion Johnson has them. And those are the things that you want in the guy. So the Steelers should still consider the center position, guard position, if it falls that way, to answer your question there, Michael. But the thing is that they've addressed that position so much in this free agency with Cole and Daniels. I think they're willing to give Kendrick Green one more shot at it, and if he doesn't work out, they'll look at who does work out this next year and invest in it then. But I think that this draft has a really good chance again for a top cornerback to fall to them, a top defensive tackle to fall to them, a top safety to fall to them, or a top quarterback to fall to them. And all of those positions, just with how this year grades out, looks to me like better options than going into one of those guys in the offensive line. Now, if somehow the offensive tackles fall to them, we're jumping all over that, except Trevor Penning. I am not on the Trevor Penning train. Don't like it. Stay away. The guy gets beat too much by bull rushes, and he seems to have a bad attitude when he loses, and does things to get you penalties. Don't like that. What I see out of him. But like, if somehow magically a Kema Kwanyu just fell down, by the way, he's going first overall. I'm just saying. I think that's what's going to happen. But like Charles Cross, if something magical way one of those guys fall to you, sure, yeah, but that's never happening because those guys are going top 10. Anyways, my point here is Tyler Linderbaum, interesting prospect if you could get him later. I don't think that they're going to be able to. I think that some team will take him at some point, and those arm length is a problem, and functional strength at the point of attack is a problem. If he's around in the second round, great. If not, oh well, you go somewhere else. I think the Steelers could do well addressing other positions, and I also think that they're going to give this new offensive line a chance to work together and establish a new tone. So that's what I think about that there. We've got a lot more to talk about the NFL draft. Of course, we've got mock draft Monday coming up in just a bit. It is mock draft Monday, but we've got to announce our final winner of mock draft Monday. We thank you so much because so many of you have submitted so many mock drafts. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's a big number. But we got one final winner. You can find out if you won in just a minute here. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Built Bar. Y'all know about Built Bar. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And if you're trying to help keep your diet in check, if you're trying to avoid eating the snacks that are just putting too much weight on you, this is where Built Bar comes in as the ultimate protein bar option. They also have the Puffs flavors, or the Puffs versions of their Built Bars, that are basically protein-infused marshmallows. They're lighter, and they taste amazing. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in flavors like cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, and they're all very good. If you want a regular Built Bar, those are still awesome. They also have 100% real chocolate covered all over, and they have so many different flavors. But each Built Bar comes with low calories but high protein. That's 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to the average candy bar that has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. You're getting a much better, healthy option, and it tastes amazing. And they have all the flavors at Built.com to taste amazing. Double chocolate, coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, all those and many more available at Built.com, and new flavors coming out every month. So go to Built.com, and when you go there, use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15, LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order when you visit Built.com to get your next order of Built Bars. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, and it's the final mock draft Monday. Listen, I love the mock draft season. I think it's fun, but when you get to the end of it, you're a little tired of the mock drafts, and that's where I'm at right now. Not with you guys' mock drafts, but just every day there's a new mock draft, and it's just like, man, this kid's it's also coming off to me that like it's kind of also being like the overplayed thing for people to complain about mock drafts. Because I mean, ultimately, I don't care too much when you guys do it or when someone like when a fan tweets at me a mock draft. I don't that you're fine, but like you have to stop and pay attention to everything. I'm just like, okay, that's not really news that so and so says this player is going this way. I frankly don't care about that. But it does give you a chance to talk about different players you might not have talked about before. It does give you a chance to look at how different things could play out. So I went with one that looked more realistic as far as how it could play out and how it could work for the Steelers. And so without further ado, I announce the final mock draft Monday winner of the Locked On Steelers podcast for the year 2022. And it is Bruce A. Ross. Bruce, you did a great job here. Congratulations, putting together a lot of the different needs the Steelers have at reasonable parts. Now, the only gripe I have with you, Bruce, is you didn't pick a quarterback. And that was one thing I'm like, they're going to take a quarterback at some point. But I liked it because of the way that you handle some of these other positions. And so again, I'm not saying that Bruce is going to be exactly how it plays out, but I like the way that this addresses several different needs of the Pittsburgh Steelers on the roster right now. So for those who can't watch on YouTube and don't see this immediately, if you're listening to this, the first pick from Bruce Ross was Chris Olave, 20th overall, no trades, just straight up picked the Steelers for the Steelers as they were. But Chris Olave, wide receiver, Ohio State, burner, good hands, big playmaker, superstar wide receiver, makes sense. Adds a big name to the wide receiver room, kind of puts Diontae Johnson in the position. It's like, hey, we don't have to pay you next year if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're talking to them. So I think that makes a ton of sense if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers to get a star receiver. And there's certain guys in this draft class I think the Steelers should jump at if they fall to them. I don't think that they will because I think there will be a run at wide receiver before 20. I think Jamison Williams will be gone. I think Drake London, or excuse me, when I'm looking at wide receivers, I'm always mixing up my guys. But I think Garrett Wilson will be gone. I think Chris Olave will end up being gone. Drake London from USC, he'll be gone. And there's a chance that even like a Traylon Burks or somebody, because I've seen some people project like, oh, he's going to go up that high. But if Chris Olave falls to you, awesome. And there's also many ways that could play out too. If cornerback has a run before that wide receiver can bump down, if offensive line has a run, if quarterback has a run, there's several of those. Although we have been hearing from Ian Rappaport and other guys that talk to NFL GMs a lot and they text with them a lot. Supposedly there's a lot of GMs asking, how many quarterbacks are you hearing go before us? Because teams want to know, will other players fall to them? So that's an interesting tidbit about how a lot of people feel about this quarterback class, that it really isn't all that, and this isn't the time to jump on a quarterback. But again, the Steelers may have their own information that they're thinking, y'all are crazy. We're going after Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder or whoever. But there's that. So the second pick here from Bruce was Jaquan Brisker. Good pick at safety. Again, I think that and it's a little different with Terrell Evans, yes. But again, I think Jaquan Brisker is a guy that, Edmonds on a 1-year deal. This gives you 3 safeties. You disguise. All 3 of these guys can hit. All 3 of these guys can move. Good athleticism, good size, good. And Jaquan Brisker maybe better with his ball skills than Terrell Edmonds. You could see that working out. I could see that really helping the secondary. So with your first 2 picks, you've helped the offense and the defense. But the third round pick was very interesting because you went after Bruce, Logan Hall. Now, Logan Hall is an interesting prospect because he's not the first guy that jumps out at people, because when you talk about the defensive tackle position, you're talking normally Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Travis Jones, DeMarvin Leal, Perion Winfrey, any of those guys. But when you look at Logan Hall, he's a physical dude, and he's a guy that when I talk to other Locked On guys, a lot of people were like, I want Logan Hall. No, I want Logan Hall. And they all think that they can get him in day 3 of the NFL draft. So he could be a sneaky add to the defensive line room. Now, the one thing I will say, Bruce, adding a defensive tackle in this class, I think the Steelers are, if they go that direction, they want to go with a guy that's going to contribute sooner rather than later, which to me signals a Travis Jones, a Jordan Davis, a Devontae Wyatt, even if I don't think he's going to be that guy. Logan Hall, I think, will contribute eventually because he's a third round pick, but I think he's more of a guy that's going to take some time, and they don't need as much of a depth player on the in the interior defensive line. They need a guy who's going to play right now. But still an interesting prospect there to add to the defensive line room. Then at the fourth round, you went and got Brian Robinson Jr. with the 138th overall pick. You get basically Najee Harris's backup at Alabama. It's a 1-2 punch. You give Najee Harris some spell time. He's on the bench a little bit more. I think that's a smart way to go. Then you went and got Kalen Barnes, cornerback out of Baylor. Like that in the late rounds, take a shot at it, see what happens. Again, I'm more of a Damari Mathis guy if you're going to be picking on either early day 3 or late day 2 to get a cornerback. But sometimes if you see other value in other guys, I understand how that works out. Then you clearly listen to the show a lot, Bruce, because you went with Bo Melton in the 7th round with the first 7th round pick, wide receiver out of Rutgers. Bo Melton, a guy that looked really good in the Senior Bowl, looks like a good return man, looks like a good 5th receiver type of dude. I've talked about him a lot. I've talked to his former wide receiver coach, Taekwon Underwood, a lot. And he has a lot of good things to say about his character on top of how he grows as a player. So I think he'd be a really great late day 3 addition. And then you go to get Virginia Tech offensive tackle Luke Tenuta. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, oh well, 7th round pick on an offensive lineman. Phooey, you missed. So good picks here all around, Bruce. I'm not saying it's going to go this exact way, but I do like the way you thought here. I do like the way, I think if the Steelers took this haul away, I think that they'd be excited for those. They definitely would want a quarterback addition there. But I do see a lot of those prospects being guys that they would be looking at in this draft process. So thanks again to Bruce. Thanks again to everyone who played Mock Draft Monday. We're sorry if you didn't win this year. There were so many of you to pick from every week. I tried my best to kind of pick people that kind of made sense of what we were talking about each week. Did my best, but we hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that if you're enjoying the show, you're still checking us out every day. Remember, on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Like this video if you saw it on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all of our daily content, Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus episodes and our breaking news updates. Again, we thank for everyone for checking us out. If you want to help us out more, go on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review with a positive comment. When you do both at the same time, you get a special shout out at the end of the show. And again, if you're one of those people that are helping us out, we thank you so much. And also remember to call us in our if you're enjoying the show, to call us in our call-in number. If you didn't get on because of Mock Draft Money, you can always get in if you leave a good voicemail. Again, that's 412-223-6644. Call that number and you have a chance to get on the show and ask a question. Also, shout out to most people, because most of y'all are leaving very reasonable voicemails that are very nice, kindly worded, and just kind of to the point. Guide tips if you want to get on the show: 1, keep it closer to 30 seconds to 45 seconds. When you start getting past a minute 15, then I'm like, it's gonna mean I have to edit it down, and that's not helping me out. Second note: if you're one of the people that are trying to call as a troll, because I knew that was going to happen, it doesn't really work. You don't get on the show and I don't even hear you, because the thing that I have transcribes your stuff. And if you have words that are considered offensive, I don't even see it. So I got notification like, hey, this didn't even get to you because we picked this up. So don't bother doing that. It's stupid. And I don't understand why people waste their time doing crank calls to a voicemail box. It's weird. Anyways, thanks again for checking out the Locked On Steelers podcast. We'll have Wes Euler on the Tuesday episode and then Tony on the Wednesday episode, getting you ready for Steelers draft week. I'm Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques, and I'll be back on your screens in your ears very soon.